What's up guys, doing the guy here. Today I'm going to be showing you a solution for squeaky mountain bike brakes. Here's an example of my front brake, which is squeaky. And it has like no power behind it. And my rear brake was just like that. My rear brake was actually worse. Even with 2 fingers I wasn't able to lock it up and it had no power. But now, no squeaking at all and plenty of power. And my front one, terrible. So let's get started. We're going to begin this with flipping over the bike onto the handlebars. Once you have clear access to that front wheel, you're just going to pull the quick release here. Mine's pretty tight, okay? And you're just going to carefully unscrew and slide out that front wheel on both sides. There you go. Now you'll have access to the disc, which likely is buttery smooth because it's very squeaky. And then you're also going to have access to your brake caliper. Once you have removed the wheel and disc, you're going to want to remove the pin that's holding in your brakes. Essentially, there's this little pin, and there should be a little end on the other side that's bent. You're going to grab that with pliers, and you're going to bend it straight. Now, some pins are easier to grab than others. Mine's kind of difficult. But you're going to straighten out that pin. See how it's straight? And then you'll be able to pull it right out. Now, once you've pulled it out, you should now have easy access to your calipers or your pads. So what you're going to do with these pads is you're simply going to push from the top. On the other side, you're going to push from the top. There should be a little like spring you can push on. You're just going to slide them out. Sorry, my camera keeps going unfocused. You're going to slide them out like that. And pull. Okay, so they usually come out as 2, but they might come out as 1. And once you pull them out, you should have 2 pads and a spring in between them. Now, a precaution you typically want to take to make sure these drums don't get closed while you don't have anything in between them is taking one of these disc brake spacers. You usually get them on a bleed kit. Once you've done all that, you'll be left with a couple parts. Obviously, you have your pliers you use. You'll have the spring that returns both disc or caliper, both pads. You'll have both your pads, and you'll have the pin that locked everything together. Now, the things you're going to want to grab is, first of all, some sandpaper. I think this is 150 grit. It's kind of rough, but it's perfect. And some paper towel. You're going to take your paper towel. And I know this camera angle is quite zoomed in, but I do like that my phone has a beautiful 3x zoom. And so, I'm taking advantage of it here. Now, essentially, a squeaky and weak pad, you'll notice that it's going to be quite shiny and reflective and smooth. That means that your pad, that's the reason it's squeaking. Because think about it, if you want this to grip on your disc, if it's smooth like that, I mean, how are you going to have any grip or traction on that pad? So this means it's got contaminated with oils and it's just worn down. Now, this doesn't mean you need to replace it. This means you just need to work on it a little bit. What we're going to be doing is shaving that smooth layer off with the sandpaper. So just like this, we're going to shave that first layer off until it's no longer a shiny, greasy texture. You want it to become a matte texture. That's the idea. And you just shave it nice and good until it's a nice matte texture. And yes, it will get more shiny as you use it, but if it's squeaking, then that means it's a little too shiny. And as you see, it is now matte texture. And you'll look in the light here. That is what you want it to look like. Now, we're going to do that with the other one here. Next step, you're going to need some pure isopropyl alcohol. Here's some 91%. Now, essentially what we're doing with this is we are cleaning off the sanding shavings from the pads, and we are also cleaning off any oils that are on the pad that will cause it to become greasy. So basically what I do is I take a paper towel or two and I wad them up into a ball. And you're going to take that alcohol and work fast with this stuff. It evaporates quite quickly. And you're going to, oh crap, I spilled a bunch. And you are going to essentially put on that towel and wipe these pads real good. And now you'll notice it'll get on the towel. Once it's gotten on the towel, move to a different spot on the towel. You don't want to rub it with this dirty spot, because that will just reapply the oil onto your towel, onto your pad, I mean. So, you know, create new sections of the alcohol on your towel and just really wipe it down. Clean that really in depth and well until you have a nice, clean, fresh. This should act like a new brake pad, which means, you know, you are going to have to bed them in again and all that. So let's let that dry for a sec. Ooh, I accidentally touched it. Big mistake. You do not want to touch your pads ever, because the oils from your hands will cause the same issues as any other oils. And now, whenever it's dry, it should start turning into, see that dry section on the bottom right corner? A nice matte color, but a clean colored pad. The next thing that is surprisingly important to work on is your disc. Now for this step, a lot of people may take the disc out of the bike, which I do recommend. It can help you get a nicer surface, but if you feel confident without it, you can go without taking it out. Now essentially, what we're going to be doing is sanding and cleaning this, as well as there is most likely oils and various things contaminating the pad, the disc, creating a squeaky and low grip surface. So what we're going to be doing is evenly and carefully sanding the disc down. I'm using, I think, 150 grit. And you're just going to go around in circles like this. Make circular motions with your hands, just creating a even surface throughout the whole thing. It's important that it's an even surface so the bite of the disc is the same throughout the whole thing. So you're just going to be sanding that down until you've got a nice scratched up surface, a more matte surface than before. Just the most important thing, as long as it's even, you're usually going to be okay. You don't want to use a super harsh grit for this. Just a slightly smaller grit, like. So we're going to take another paper towel, like last time, and you're going to put some isopropyl alcohol, some pure alcohol, and you're just going to scrub it nice and good. You'll notice in the first couple wipes, there will be metal shavings and oils on that rag, but this alcohol will just dry out your brakes and clean them, make them sanitized and clean, and ready for the trail. Okay, really important thing to remember here is not touch any of the braking components where they actually touch the bike, as you'll possibly contaminate. So we're just going to take the spring like this, just how they came apart. You're going to put it between the pads carefully. These are Tektro brakes, by the way. And look, you're going to put that spring between the pads so they go back together. Once that spring is between the pads, you're just going to carefully slip it in to the slot that you found it from, all the way in. Boom, they're in. One last step on those brakes. Last step here is going to be your securing pin. Just slide it into the slot all the way through, and then look on the other side. On the other side, it should slip right through to there. And now this is really important, otherwise your brakes will fall out mid-trail, is you're going to position it in a fashion to where you can easily bend it out. And now you're going to grab that area and you're going to bend it. And once it's bent, now there's no way of it falling out, and your brakes are locked in place and ready. One of the final steps, I say one of because there's still some steps in making sure your brakes work well before you ride the trail, is locking in your putting in your wheel. So what we're going to be doing here is slotting in your wheel the same way it came in originally. This is my first time working on this bike, so I still need to figure everything out here so that when you put it back together, it'll stay together. I'm not exactly sure how this quick release is supposed to go. But yeah, just make sure your wheel is nice and centered in the fork. It is. And make sure it's tight on there. Shouldn't be coming off. And now it's time for you to bed in your brakes. First thing you'll notice is there now is no longer any kind of squeak to be noticed. If we press that brake, even if we do it slowly, there's no squeaking. But now it's time for a really important step in making sure your brakes work great again, and that is bedding them in.